Steve Moran here with Senior Living Foresight. I'm still having a hard time readjusting from Senior Housing Forum. And a week or so ago, I was trolling LinkedIn and I came across this story about this guy working in senior living who not only was fully staffed, but actually has people lined up waiting to work for him. And I know that in our whole industry, we have this huge challenge where nobody can find enough people and they can't keep people. And so this was like this crazy story. And so I just went in and I said, I want to interview that guy. And pretty soon somebody reached out to me, and here we are talking to Tonio. So Tonio, why don't we start by having you talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, what company you work for, and then we're going to dig into how you do things differently.
Okay, sounds good. So again, my name is Tonio Nguyen. I'm here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I currently work for Sodexo, which has a partnership with Covenant Living. And what we provide is top-notch senior living services to residents. And my title here is the operations manager. I service this location, and then for help with trainings at other departments with their hiring or their structure, I will go to different accounts.
So what is it, how is it that you go about, man, I don't even know where to start. So what's it like working for you? I think that's probably the first question I've got to ask.
I'm sorry?
What's it like working for you?
So working for me is you are going to have to be able to handle your own business. So one of the things is, and I guess I'll just speak to the fact that I actually primarily hire younger students. That doesn't mean I won't hire anybody else, but that age group, because what they're looking for more than just money is growth. So I put the responsibility onto them. So anybody who works for me, you are responsible for your own projects and whatever. But another thing I do is also I manage off relationships. So I also know who they are. Doesn't matter what department they're in. I know what they're good at, what they're trying to get good at, what they're looking for. Because you might have somebody who says, yeah, I want to come in, I want to make friends, I want to talk to residents. You might have another person who wants to come in and says, I just want to go do my job and go home. And that's okay too. So it takes a lot of time and putting a lot of structure in it. So I guess I'll just start with the beginning, that my game plan when I first came here was I'm going to find a staff that does not need a manager, because I was always taught the mark of good managers, does your operations run without you? So if I were to go help another account, I have to trust that my own account is not going to be on fire.
I love that. So so you came into a building or a situation that was perhaps ordinary, maybe even below ordinary, and you turned it around, or certainly you made it different. What was the process you went through in getting from where you were to where it is today? And how long have you been there?
So I've been here for 4 years.
Okay.
And my process when I first came here, they had what's called leads, but they weren't really leads. They were just people who ran around and helped people. They didn't really have any leadership responsibilities. They didn't have anything. And it was mainly for them to just give the teenagers a couple extra dollars to hang on to them, which we all know that you could say you're going to keep somebody by money, and money is important. But if money is the only thing, what happens when somebody outbids you, which can happen?
That's
so
right.
My first thing was I'm going to empower the leads. And I built from there. So instead of, let's say I have a staff of 30, 40 people, instead of me managing 30, 40 people, I would primarily manage through 7 people. And I would develop those 7 as young adults, and then they would be the ones they control. And that would help for 2 reasons. That would help those 7 become really good leads in life, but also for the other staff who are not leads, that's something they could strive for, and they could relate better to those leads than it's something coming from a manager all the time.
And so how did you turn those leads into leaders?
So I started by having one-on-ones with them, getting them to see exactly what I see them. And we had open dialogue. So one thing I always let the leads do, well, any of my staff, is once in a while I ask them, how am I doing as a manager for you? So they get to tell me if they think there's something I've done, and I have to take that criticism. Even if I don't think it's true, I still can say thank you for your feedback. So we get to have a back and forth. So then when I tell them something, they get to tell me something back. So that's why we're able to put a responsibility on them. And we have some growing pains like anybody else, but now they take over. They do the schedules. One person has a project schedule, one person has a project, she trains all the new people, and so on and so on.
So each one of the leads has sort of a global responsibility for some part of the operation, rather than just a small subset of people. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And how do you go about recruiting people?
So actually, I don't do anything now because
Okay.
I made this a great place to work for, which is one of the things I want to do. Where it's a job, you are going to have to work, but there are times you're going to have fun too. So it's finding that balance. So now they recruit for me. So now my goal coming to this fall was to hire 7 people. I've got 7 who've already started and another 6 on the way. And I really just wanted 7 because having that many new people is a lot, but we're going to take them.
And these are, so I take it that means they're all all or mostly part-time?
Yes, for the most part.
Okay. And are your leads part-time as well?
Yeah, everyone. In fact, take that back. Everyone in my residential department they're all part-time.
Okay. And these are primarily food service workers?
Yes.
Okay. And mostly high school or high school, college?
High school and college.
Okay. And you are using high school students as leads?
I'm sorry?
Are you using high school students as leads?
Yes.
And typically, so they typically will stay with you then until they go to their next level of school?
Yes. Generally, if they're high school, they'll stay till they start college, and then some of them will stay even throughout college. In fact, that's what happens most of the time. And then my college students will probably stay until they graduate and start looking for something in their field. And then even still, until they find something full time, they might pick up a few hours here and there because they know that this is a place they can come and pick up.
So do you like what you do?
I do. Actually, I love what I do.
And if you were going to give advice to somebody who says, I want to do this too, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to be ready to work very hard at the beginning because you're going to have to put your heart and soul into it. So if something you don't want to do, you're going to have to deal with. And I also tell you this, you either have to have a lot of patience or be willing to gain a lot of patience.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, not just the age group. I would say just in general, dealing with in senior dining, you're going to have a lot of patience, not just from your team, but from your residents and everything. So because they're going to be, especially dealing with younger staff, they might not be as patient with the process as you're going to be, but you're going to have to, respect where everybody's coming from.
So what I'm fascinated by is you seem to have this sort of very unique balance of great patience and yet the ability to push people to work really, really hard at the same time. And I think that we tend to think of patience as being laid back, which means you let people get away with stuff, but it sounds like you don't let people get away with anything at all. And yet, people love you for it. Can you talk about that, or do you have any thoughts about that?
So I guess I'll take this, and because I do have older staff too. I have some people who are, over the age of 50. So I have kind of a range, but bulk of it is I give them the parameters. So they know what they can't, what decisions they can make and what decisions they need some opinions on. And generally, the more that they work here, and the more, as long as they're a good employee and they've shown they make good decision making, because I do tell them this is my vision. The more people that can make high level decisions for my department, the better. So they want to get to the point where, hey, I'm an adult, even if I'm 16 or 17 or 50, whatever, no one's going to micromanage me as long as I get the results that we need and an ethical way.
Well, can you talk a little bit about the kinds of decision-making things that people are doing that are typical? Yeah, are there typicals?
Yeah, it could be anything from, let's say, for instance, there is a random call out but generally they have to cover their own shifts. Or let's just say marketing comes in. This is a great example. I was actually in Japan, and marketing came, they had a big event, and I was here, and I said, okay, great, we're going to do this for you. We're going to push these tables together. These are the kind of menus options we have because it's kind of a, last minute situation. Here's who the server's going to be, so they can go over what kind of care they would get here at Covenant. So they really kind of just own the event without really any kind of notice because they know they can make those decisions and don't have to wait on me. or if the power goes out, they know what to do. They had that situation happen where the power was out and I had to they had to move a bunch of stuff around because they had to take care of the residents in the dark. So
And so what I think I hear you saying is that you've created this very trusting environment where or, you know, you trust them, but they also feel safe to make decisions and empowered to make decisions.
yes, I would put it like this. And this is what I tell them. Here's the best thing about working here. If you're a lead, if you make a decision and it goes great, you get all the credit. If it goes bad, I take all the blame.
I love that. I love it. I love it. Hey, Tonio, this has been amazing. This is a story that every senior living executive needs to hear. What I love is about what you're doing is that when I look at the senior living space, there's a lot of turnover. And most of the reason for the turnover is because they don't like the person they're directly reporting to, which is mostly people at your level, which is just absolutely amazing. One more question for you. This is one of those ones where I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm sure. Can you talk to me about so who do you report to?
So I report to an overall dining director for just this campus. His name is Richard Draper. And then if I go on the road, then I would answer to our regional directors.
Right. But in the day-to-day operation of your community, it's the food service director. And what's your relationship like with him?
It's actually really good. We honestly, and people will look on the outside and think that we would, because we disagree, but it's healthy disagreement. And that's what I want from both him and from my team is we want open discussions. Like I don't have to, like if he tells me something, it's not like, oh, you have to do this. Okay, let's talk about it. And vice versa. If I have something, I'll bring to him. I'm not expecting an immediate yes. I'm expecting a discussion about it.
Well, I guess what I'm sort of thinking, and I think what you've just confirmed, is that in order for you to be able to lead the way you do, he's got to, as the person you report to, he's got to be comfortable with you turning loose of the reins to your team, right? So that says a lot about his leadership style. And I think the question that I always have is how, if I'm a CEO of a senior living company and I want it to be like that all the way down to the frontline staff, how do I make it trickle all the way down so it goes from the CEO to the executive directors to the various departments and on down, right? I mean, that I think is sort of the magic sauce that I spend a lot of time thinking about. I wish I knew the answer to it.
Okay, so I will answer this, I guess, in two quick ways. Well, one is, in fairness to Rick, while he made a big of adjustment because it wasn't something he was used to at all. But he said, I'm going to see what you can do. And he gave it a couple months and then he started saying, because when he came in, we had a lot of transition in leadership and I had switched buildings. So actually I was new to the team too when he kind of came in. But he kind of hung back and he saw what I was building and now here we are. But I would say this, it actually starts not from the top, but from the bottom. I would say, what kind of employees do you want before you even talk about the high level part? I guess from a high level part, can the organization be committed to each individual person that comes into our building that takes care of residents? Can we make them a great employee because they're the ones who talk to residents every single day? We're not always around. So I would tell them, what kind of person do you want to be taking care of the residents? Do you want someone who's highly engaged, committed, that makes decisions? Or do you want somebody who's coming to make a paycheck and go home?
How often do you hire somebody that it doesn't work out?
Oh, how can I say this without bragging? Maybe out of the past 30 people I've hired, 2 haven't worked out.
So let me tell you why I asked that question, because it was kind of a setup, and you gave me about the answer that I would expect. Oftentimes, I think people tend to believe that the reason they have turnover is just because they can't hire the right people. And I kind of tend to think that people are mostly the same, and that if you treat them well, they're good employee. You can take one person, they could either be a great employee or a terrible employee, depending on how they're treated. And I think that everything you've told me confirms that. And that's not to say there aren't some outliers, because there's no doubt about it that occasionally you get somebody that doesn't work, it's not a good fit, or they're maybe not a good person, but mostly people are good people and want to do a good job. So I love that. So Tony, this has been amazing. I appreciate the time. I can hardly wait to, as soon as I get off, I'm going to get the video rendered and get this story written because I'm really pumped up about what you're doing. People like you can revolutionize the whole of the industry. So thank you for being willing to share.
You're very welcome.